I'm gonna stay out here and let me know how the sound is. If you can hear me, please let me know. Do do do. Can you hear me? I have something special for you guys tonight. I had someone ask me in the last week or so, what were the Anu Het? Because I had asked the question of Rayo in a private session like a year or so ago. And I forgot not everyone knows who the Anu Het are. Let me know if you know who the Anu Het are, or the seventh hybrid race. The version that I have doesn't have video, but it has the transmission, and I cut it down today to a something usable for that y'all can listen to and at least get the information. The version that I have doesn't have video, but it has the transmission, and I cut it down today to a something usable for that y'all can listen to and at least get the information. Let's give it a couple more minutes till about 8 o'clock, and then we'll start putting up the transmission. Hello, chat. If you can hear me, please sign something in the comments. Do do do. Screw it. If people don't show up, they can check this later. All right, let's do this.
A little say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you.
This is cut up.
Thank you. First and foremost, once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the opportunity to share this transmission with you at this time. It is a great gift that you give to our civilization in allowing us to experience through each of you that many more facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We would like to begin this transmission in the following way. We have titled this transmission, The 5 Hybrid Races. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about far more than 5. We are going to give you now, at this time, a little bit bigger picture of the path of the evolution on Earth.
How's it sound on the video? Or the sound file?
Incorporating the idea of the 5 hybrid races within this overall picture, but beginning sooner and going further, so that you have a better map, a better understanding of what Earth is participating in on a grander scale at this time. Now, before we begin to explain this map, this path, the phases that are involved in what has brought you to this point and what will take you further as a species, we are going to allow briefly, we're going to help facilitate briefly another being to come through for a few moments to give you a list of names. You may not understand what this list is at first. Many of them will sound foreign to you. That's all right. After the list has been delivered, we will go over the list again and explain what each of these names is a reference to. Give us a moment.
If you have any questions during the stream, let me know. I can stop, or we can sit there and talk about it for a minute.
Anu, Vikwadesh, Adama, Eva, Maz-e, Mazani, Sasani, Shayael, Yael, Shah, Linaya, Enanika, Anuhet.
I love this transmission. I've listened to this so many times.
All right, now that you have this list, let us begin at the beginning and explain what each of these mean. As we have discussed from time to time, the Anu are a race of extraterrestrial beings that came to your world hundreds of thousands of years ago. And without going too much more deeply into the story than what we have already imparted to you, suffice to say, the Anu, or as many of you refer to them in ancient text as the Anunnaki, were responsible for infusing their genetic material into the naturally evolved hominid species on your planet that you often refer to as Homo erectus and various similar types of early human form. And with the infusion of their DNA into Homo erectus, thus created what you now consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien, human. Now, the second word, Vikwadesh, is a reference to this early hominid form, Homo erectus as you call it. In the ancient tongue, Vikwa means seed. Desh means template. So it is the seed template that was used to create Homo sapien. The initial manifestation in the ancient tongue, Adama, again translated in some of your stories as the idea of Adam.
This transmission is from 2019.
The idea then, as related metaphorically in some of your early literature, your religious literature, your early scrolls and texts, the idea of the creation of the female form by the utilization of the early male form of Adama to create the female representation of the Eva, or Eva, or Eve. The idea being that this represents, no offense, gentlemen, but the Eva represents the first hybridization upgrade of the human form. I know that many of the females in the audience are pleased to hear this. Therefore, with the Adama and the Eva, you then had the basic idea of the male and female human forms. It does not mean that there were not female forms in the V Quadesh, in the Homo erectus. Just that the way in which the female Homo sapien was created by the Anu utilized the initial template of the Adama to make sure that it would be, as you say in your language, a hybridization upgrade. Now, once that existed, once the human forms existed in what you recognize as your present male and female forms, and the human race began to flourish and replicate and spread, remember that we have told you the story of another parallel Earth reality that destroyed their world, and that the humans on that world became mutated into the form you call the Greys. And because they had mutated in such a way, hybridized themselves in such a way to be able to survive on their destroyed version of Earth, they were no longer able to reproduce. And they knew that they would die out if they did not seek out somehow, somewhere, a viable source of still existing human DNA. They used their advanced technology, as we have told you before, to tunnel into various parallel reality versions of Earth, including yours, to find viable human DNA, to infuse with themselves to create hybrid civilizations that would allow their culture to continue and not die out. But the idea of the early Grey, in a sense, because it was something that was created that changed them into a form that could adapt to their dying world, in a sense, is the first hybrid race. The Greys in the ancient tongue are the Maz-eh. The Maz-eh are what came into your parallel reality and began the hybridization agenda. So the Maz-eh,
how many
Greys
people knew this?
formed the first hybrid race. The first hybridization level or phase that followed the Maz-eh,
Mary, I've rewatched this a million times,
is what we call the Mazani. These are what many people in these encounters have recognized as the tall Greys. So they are the next stage of hybridization from the Greys that began to incorporate human DNA and allowed them to begin to change to something a little bit closer to resembling the idea of a hybrid that could continue their species. But it still was not sufficient for a number of reasons. But they were the second hybrid race, and in a sense, phase.
Make sure you put in the comments a transmission that you could listen to all the time, or one that you might be interested in actually hearing in the somewhat near future. Let's get back to it.
One of the hybridization agenda. After that came our civilization, the Sassani. So we are the third hybrid race. We are representative of a 50-50 balance.
This is not the full
between
transmission.
The Greys, the Maz-eh,
but thank you,
and
yes.
the humans. on your world and other worlds like yours. We are physically and representationally halfway between the Greys and what you consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien. We are here, as you can see, to share information with you because we are family, we are genetically connected. You are in many ways our ancestors, and we are your descendants, and we will get to that point a little bit more deeply in a moment. The next phase is what was called the Shah Yael. This is something that is a little bit more human in appearance, but still containing various aspects of what you consider to be hybrid beings.
I also made sure to get rid of a lot of the repeat questions you hear a lot of people ask over and over and over again, just so it's like the pure information of what he was talking about with the seventh and also the other hybrids.
They still have much larger eyes than you. They're relatively slender like us, but a little bit more toward the human form that you are familiar with. Now, the Shayael, the fourth hybrid race, act in many ways as guides for the fifth hybrid race, the Yael, who are much more human-like, and that's why they are going to be the first hybrid species of the 5 hybrid races that would have open contact with your civilization. They look more or less human. They may still exhibit a few of the ideas of hybrid traits that would make them a little bit different than what you consider.
See, I've heard from later Yael that they get giant heads that are kind of like heart-shaped. I've heard of earlier versions of the Sasani before they become quasi-physical that have come through, and it's kind of interesting to hear their evolution through different transmissions that I've heard over the years.
A normal or natural human to look like, but nevertheless, the fourth hybrid race, the Shayael, will act in a sense as guides and organizers to help with the agenda of acclimatization for the Yael to be able to interact with your world when open contact begins. So they are working very closely together that way. What follows the Yael is what has been termed the Shalanaya, which in the ancient tongue is the first ones. The first ones being what you typically refer to as the hybrid children that live on the ships that will ultimately be returned to Earth to live among you and begin the process of allowing Earth to blend into and evolve into the sixth hybrid race eventually. This is what we refer to as the next word in the list, the Anani Ka. Now, we have initially told you that our ancient word for Earth is Inani, which basically means the ancestors, but more specifically, it was in its ancient form more Nadea, Inanika, which means the place of the ancient mothers.
Let me know if you haven't heard this before.
That's a more literal translation, which has now been condensed over time simply into Ananika, which is the ancestor spirits. But in this case, spirit, not only representing the idea by the word ka of what you consider normal spirit to be, but also the idea of essence. And in this case, a literal reference to DNA. So it is the idea of the ancestor DNA and that which will allow there to be a blending, a harmonization, and a continuing of evolution for Earth to become the sixth hybrid race. Now, we have previously also told you that there would be ultimately a seventh hybrid race that would be a blending of all the other 6. This will be a new type of being that will represent a very different way of existing in physical reality, that will exhibit many traits of spirits and other dimensions, will have an interesting expression of power and passion and peace, that will explore and unify many different star systems, many different galaxies in time. So Earth is forming the last foundational component for the seventh hybrid race, which on the list is referred to as Het, or Anu Het, which means they are the conclusion of the cycle, the grand cycle that was begun by the Anunnaki and ends with the Anu Het, and brings forth a new species, as we said, of power, passion, and peace. Now, this all goes toward the understanding of the real transformation that's taking place on your planet. This entire cycle is really what the transformation is all about. This upgrade, this uplift, this ascension into new forms, new expressions of great power and passion and peace and benefit and creativity and unconditional love that can ignite a new wave of experience and a new series of civilizations within your star system, other star systems, and the galaxy and other galaxies. This is the beginning of a new cycle with the Anu Het, a new form of the Anunnaki for a different purpose of expanding creation.
So I want to interrupt real quick. So something that I've learned since listening to this transmission specifically is a good percentage of people that, well, pretty much everyone who's drawn to Bashar's material is actually a Sasani that's currently incarnated here on Earth. So if you really are drawn to this sort of information, there's a good chance you're part of the same civilization as Bashar and Ryo and Shell and a lot of the other Sasanis that have come through. We're all part of the same family.
In a new and unique way, in a much broader way, in a much more expanded way. And this then brings us to be capable this day of explaining to you that in terms of our gifts of sharing information with you, this is the true gift that we bring you. Because by being able to share with you all of these different principles and help you understand the nature and structure of existence in the form that we've expressed it as a type of instruction manual and tool kit that allows you to more easily apply these principles in your physical reality and make the kinds of positive and powerful changes that you wish to make in your lives. The real gift is that because we noticed that your planet was heading down the same path as the alternate Earth that destroyed themselves and turned into the Greys, the Maz-eh, the real gift is that in giving you this information, which the other world did not have, the other Earth did not have, with this information, you get to skip all the intervening phases, the Maz-eh, the Mazani, the Sasani version of yourselves, the Shayayel, the Yayayel, the Shalanaya. You get to go straight from the idea of being human into being Enani Ka, the uplifted version of yourselves, skipping over literally thousands of years of necessary evolution. That's the gift that we're actually giving to you by sharing this information with you, to highly accelerate your ability to become the sixth hybrid race without going through what that alternate version of...
Well, Homo galacticus will be the name of the species itself, but the race of beings will be specifically the Anu Het. They're the end of the cycle that was started with the Anunnaki. Back to it.
Earth went through in creating or needing to create all those different phases to bring themselves back into balance, back into center. You can skip all of that by applying the information we share with you. That is our gift to you. So, this is our explanation at this time of where you fit into this overall map, this overall picture, and that you are now accelerating for those who wish to align with it, well on your way to becoming Enani Ka.
Also, the sixth hybrid race, which what we will transform into when the Earth becomes completely hybridized during the next 1,000 years, will become Homo galacticus when we start traveling the stars. The Anu Het will be the 7th hybrid race specifically.
And accelerating toward the idea of open contact with the Shalanaya, the children, the hybrid children that have been created, that are waiting to join your world, that are now acclimatizing to the understanding of living on Earth, as you are acclimatizing to the idea of sharing the world.
This transmission is from 2019. Specifically, it's kind of like Homo galacticus is kind of like we're Homo sapien. They would be the next big form that would come along that would combine all the hybrid races together. But their actual species name would be Anu Het.
With other beings from the stars, so that you yourselves can also create the world you prefer, the version of Earth you prefer, and also expand yourself to the stars and become a spacefaring race as well. We thank you for allowing us to share this updated information with you this day of your time. And in return for the gift that you are giving to us, I ask you now, in what further way may we be of service to you? Please begin with your sharings, comments, and questions if you wish.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
Before it gets into the questions, I cut out a lot of stuff that was just kind of irrelevant, and it's just kind of felt like a lot of repeating questions that I've heard people ask over the years. So I just kind of put what I felt was just what he would actually like, more newer information.
Thank you for the co-creation.
And you as well?
I had a couple questions about the Sirius star system.
Yes.
And I had read some information about planet Nibiru, and it may have come from the Sirius star system.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I had to
Yes, I'm serious.
Okay. Okay, and
I had someone ask the other day, who were the Anu Het? So I decided to put this together as a way of kind of explaining it. I have another one coming tomorrow that will have more information in it, specifically about the Anu Het that people ask questions from like the last couple of years. But specifically the actual, this one just is the transmission that he actually specifically talks about all the different hybrids, as well as the Anu Het to begin with. It was the very first one where he actually was able to talk about that.
next question was about planet Maldek.
Yes.
And did we come from that planet, our consciousness?
The idea is that it was disrupted by the passage of the planet through your system and became what you now understand to be the asteroid belt, although a lot of the material is missing because it was dragged away and became other things like cometary material and what you call Kuiper belt material and Oort cloud material and so on and so forth. So the full volume of material that formed the planet between Mars and Jupiter is no longer there, but the remnants are what you call the asteroid belt, the remnants of Maldek, yes.
Right. And when that got destroyed, did our consciousness go to Mars?
Moved to Mars, began a civilization, and then when that became uninhabitable, the idea of the spirit journey continued onto Earth. And when the idea of the human form became a viable incarnational vehicle, shall we say, then began the journey of those souls in human form.
Is there still beings on Mars inhabiting Mars?
Not in the way you mean it. There are bases on Mars. There are beings that come and go. There are other things about that we will talk about in an upcoming transmission.
Okay. And also, my last question was,
I've also been able to connect with my counterparts on Maldek, Mars, in the Sasani civilization, in the Orions, as well as a bunch of other incarnations that I've had, as well as the Anunnaki connection that I have, and a bunch of other civilizations that I've been able to like kind of connect with as memories or connect with consciously to their consciousness.
3 stars in the Sirius star system.
There are.
Sirius A, B, and C, correct?
Yes. Glad you know your alphabet.
Well, thank you.
Also,
And so
my incarnation inside
I
the
was
Sirius
reading
star
some
system.
information about how the Sirius star system is actually gravitating towards our solar system.
To some degree.
Is that more of like a spiritual, like, movement?
There is some physicality to it, but it is metaphorically symbolic and representative of the idea that they form the third part of the triad between Earth, Ethithani, and Sirius, Siskine, in other words, so that it is a triad that helps bring each other up, that helps upgrade each other, and so in that sense, the vibration moving toward each other to blend and balance, but there is some degree, small degree, of physicality to the idea of the proximation as well.
Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. And I have another question. I was reading about a mountain called Mount Kailash in Tibet.
Yes.
And I was wondering, there's a lot of like mystery surrounding it, and I was
Yes.
just wondering, they say Shiva was buried there. And I was wondering, is Shiva an alien, or is Shiva a deity?
Shiva is a artificial, shall we say, representation in your reality of an archetypal level of your collective consciousness that sometimes can be represented through a physical being, and it is the physical symbol or representation of that energy that may be buried there, but not the actual Shiva energy, not the archetypal level of it, no.
Did he
Love to
exist in
love.
physical form?
That's in a
That's
parallel
what I just
reality,
said,
not
though.
the one
But
we're
it's
in.
not that, let me put it this way more clearly. It's not that he existed in physical form. It's that, like the idea of what you call your Jesus, your Buddha, your Krishna, and so forth, there are beings on your planet that have the ability.
Kind of going back to Atlantis. There are many realities where Atlantis never died out, and they're actually quite beautiful from what he said.
To express more of the archetypal level of collective consciousness through themselves, that one in particular being representative of the Shiva archetype, just as the Jesus was representative of the Christ consciousness and the Buddha nature and the Krishna spirit, different aspects of your collective consciousness that
Nice.
are greater beings on another dimensional
We probably
level,
knew each other.
but don't literally incarnate themselves, though can be expressed through an incarnational representative that is appropriately aligned enough to express that energy. So the incarnational representative, if you want to say it this way, the channel for Shiva is buried there, but not Shiva.
Okay.
Make sense?
That makes sense. And so they say that you can't climb to the top of it. Is that true, or is that just...
Depends on who you are. It's not about climbing to the top, it's about relocating to the top in a different way. But that's another story.
Step through a dimensional doorway.
Thank you very much, Bashar.
You are welcome,
I
very
love you very much.
Our love to you as well. We will, at some point in your near future, have a transmission that deals exclusively with all of the archetypal aspects of your collective consciousness that have been expressed as the so-called gods on your planet.
Hi, Bashar.
And a you good day.
Good day. First thing that's coming to my mind is a sound that you sometimes make through the body of Daryl, the clicking of the teeth. Yeah. It gives me chills. And ooh, thank you. And to me, it feels like almost like the telephone operator being able to move the different lines. But I'm wondering why, and I think for many of us it has kind of this resonance
Guys,
effect.
there are many different levels to this conversation, some of which do not translate into your words, some of which translate in other ways, including those kinds of sounds that carry with them.
The function that I serve as is a knowledge giver, a teacher. I've done that for many lifetimes, and I just want to share information that I have as well. Because I feel like a lot of these are kind of old and not everyone's going to get them, so I think the information should kind of be out there so more people can actually understand what Bashar teaches, and because a lot of times you just see the old stuff on YouTube, so I thought I'd share some newer stuff.
Certain frequencies that deliver other types and other levels of information to you. Were the channel a different species, the entire conversation might be. But it's not that way on your planet. You have this thing called language in the way that you have it. Therefore, only some of the information translates in other ways that are designed specifically for your mind to experience them on a different level.
It's felt.
So I want to say this because I've actually had some of the actual like different languages that my other incarnations speak come through me. Like one of the Palladian languages, actually this is a couple different dialects kind of smashed together, because there's one that sounds like Ish oleres undare korash uhisindare Fios oe teriskui. But there's also like the Lyran languages that sound like Ayr if Mahunarkis Urupasina. Some of the languages from Os around the Sirius B from that planet, the aquatic, is Aun Eos Ila Hunsta. It's just kind of fun to have those kind of that information come through. It's not like it's that important, but it's just to kind of recognize the connection that we all have. So language is fun.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
So I have questions about the beings that I would label as the Fae or the Danu.
Yes.
I'm wondering their connection to the Anu.
No. No connection.
The ones that I would understand as the Danu or the Fae would actually come then before the Anu or the Anunnaki in their like original incarnation, emergence beings from the imagination of Gaia herself.
Yes, you're talking about nature spirits.
Correct.
And that existed far, far, far before the idea of the introduction of the Anu.
Yes.
That's why there's no real...
So if the Anu or the Atlanteans, Atlan, was still around, it would be around in our reality. It's not in this reality that they exist. They exist in a separate parallel reality.
Connection.
Correct. And I thank you for the mirroring of that. I'm just wanting to bring in that different level, I guess, of the mythology also of what human is. And
I think we'll actually get to where we're able to shift to other realities much more consciously. In the next 100 years or so, hell, even the next 50 years, we're going to see a great shift in our whole society and our world. It's going to even out much more easily. It's just going to take some time, that's all.
from my perspective, at least.
Well, the idea of the nature spirits, the Fae as you call them, is that they are another type of consciousness projection through the archetypal medium or fabric of the energy of the spirit of your world. They can take various shapes because they don't necessarily need to crystallize in the way that you have into a specific form.
This is the kind of stuff I like to talk
But
about.
they are aspects of consciousness that can cloak themselves or clothe themselves with the energy.
I have more languages
the
that come through than
fabric
that.
of consciousness that is related to Gaia, as you say, your world, your collective reality.
I'm
and
also
can express
telepathic,
themselves
too.
in a variety of archetypal and symbolic ways for a variety of purposes. Now, in Earth's future, you will be interacting with them all the time and quite visibly. After the arrival of the idea of the hybrids, who will have the ability innately to be able to perceive them.
Ooh. I remember why I put this part in the actual, into this little thing I wanted to show everyone. If you actually get the 2 kids books that Daryl put out, it talks about this stuff specifically and how Willa actually interacts with the pukas or the fairies or all those sort of things. I'm really looking forward to the third book that's coming out.
Solidly, they will over time become more comfortable with allowing Earth's population to interact with them in what would appear to be physical ways. More and more and more. They will become members of the whole society of the sixth hybrid race, though they will not necessarily still be solid in the way that you or hybrids would be. But they will become part of your culture in a more open way.
Yeah, they've been showing themselves to me more and more, and have even shown different levels of their incarnation or their manifestation, as you might say, that
Which
do
part,
actually then pertain to having
Mary?
certain genetic DNA.
It's not exactly genetics as you understand it, because again, they can manipulate the energy in such a way as to take on whatever genetic form is representative of the symbol that they're reflecting.
Got it.
So temporarily they might seem crystallized, but that doesn't mean it's fixed. They can dissolve that genetic pattern to become something else. They can rearrange it. They can rearrange those molecules, because after all, it's just made out of energy. Yes?
Yes.
So nature spirits are aptly named because they are, in a sense, spirits that live in the borderland between the physical and the non-physical, who are capable of cloaking themselves in physical material, but only temporarily, because in a sense they are still spirit.
Electromagnetic energy is what he's talking about. It's kind of like taking a portion of the energy of the earth and partially physicalizing yourself as in a temporary body, but you're still more or less non-physical. You're just taking on a temporary body. It's kind of like what the Sasani do, where they can switch between spirit and non-physical and physical simultaneously. Of course, I would gladly share different languages that I can speak and see if any of you guys actually resonate with them. But right now I want to put it on a little bit more of this, and I would say more towards the end of the recording I'll share more of those.
They're just a different kind, a different expression of spirit of the archetypal level, the collective consciousness of your world. They come with the territory. Yes?
Yes.
It's Earth expressing itself in a variety of ways. Therefore, when you can also increase your ability to communicate with these nature spirits in various forms, you will also increase your ability to communicate with the Earth. This is why in the 5 levels of mastery that has been expressed by Willahilla Chrissing, a human-alien hybrid 700 years in your future who interacts with nature spirits all the time, the 5 levels of mastery begins with a level called cryptic, which is the idea of forming a real relationship and a real connection to the idea of...
And I know this is actually a later transmission that he talks about this specifically. The full 5 levels of mastery are actually contained within each level of mastery that you go through. And like the Force path actually contains all the way through to the Wraith path, but they're all contained within the individual like different paths that everyone goes through, like the cryptic, the nocturnal, the shapeshifter, the sage, and also the wraith, which is kind of the idea of going up to the level of being quasi-physical, kind of like the Sasani.
Nature. So that you ground yourself and give yourself the anchoring ability to be able to explore the higher levels in the 5 levels of mastery, which are the nocturnal, the shapeshifter, the sage, and the wraith.
From your perspective, then, would the elemental creatures
Yes.
be the same then as what we might call as the Tuatha De Danann?
Yes. That's one expression of them. There are many forms of that.
Shapeshifter.
That's just one expression of them that has been couched or coined in a particular area on your planet.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel it. Thank you. That draws some differentiation. I can feel
If you guys could shapeshift into one animal or a couple different animals, what would they be?
that they're still choosing to be a little cryptic right now, too, with us. And
Was that a pun?
Yes, it was.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Very good.
Yes, and also a commercial for Daryl, because I did read the book. It's beautiful, and I encourage everyone to read it, because it definitely starts to connect these dots for us in really fun ways. Yeah, that's all that I have to talk about.
All right,
today.
well, thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
Also, the first 2 out of the 5 books for that series, I let someone borrow them, and now they're actually all out of print, and I can't get them back for the time being. So, I've actually reread them a few times. They're really good, quick reads, but they're excellent stories.
Hi, Bashar.
And are you good day?
I'm good. How about you?
Speak up.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I would be a type of bird.
Perfect, and you?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Some sort of hawk.
What I was wondering is, what are the Palladians here to do? They're from the constellation, the Seven Sisters.
The Pleiades.
Yes. What are they here?
To us?
Right? I
No,
love
what are
Willow
they-
so much. I wish she came through more often.
Anunnaki.
They are an evolutionary offshoot of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki in their original form don't really exist in your reality anymore. They spread themselves to the stars in a variety of ways and continue to evolve into those that inhabit the Lyran star systems and the Pleiadian star systems. So they are your cousins in a sense, and by proxy, more like our second cousins, if you wish. Does that help?
Yes. Are they?
So what she, and I've heard about this from other, like Dolores Cannon. So when you hear about like the Nordic Palladian, the Nordic white aliens or the Nordic looking human-ish looking aliens, those are our cousins, realistically speaking.
Doing hybridization like the Anunnaki did?
No. That's not their way. They assist sometimes in the hybridization agenda. They do not do the hybridization.
So would there be hybrids?
I have a counterpart in that time
of
period
the
as well.
Pleiadians on Earth, or
Sometimes Pleiadians can walk among you undetected, yes.
That'd be so much fun to shapeshift into a tree.
is there a way to detect them, or
There is,
how would you go about detecting them?
by being more sensitive to their frequency. And the way to become more sensitive to their frequency would be by following the formula we have always given to all of you. Act on your passion to the best you're able with no insistence or assumption as to what the outcome could be. And by being in that state, turn your thoughts to the idea of those Pleiadian beings, and you'll become a more receptive
The
and
insistence
sensitive
is where
antenna to
everyone
their
gets into
particular
trouble.
frequency, and possibly be
Everything
able to
has to
detect
turn
them
out a
little
certain
bit
way.
more clearly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
How's it going?
Perfect, and you?
Well, you have a really an intense energy that keeps well, ever since you like basically first arrived or whatever, started messing with my head in a way, and
Well,
basically
you're
having
the
a
one
lot.
that's messing with your own head. We're just giving you the way to do that a little bit more efficiently.
Well, you give me a lot of images.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
You give yourself a lot of
Everything that you've
images.
already brought up and talked about, I knew without having to study.
Slow
without-
down and speak up clearly.
Everything you have brought up thus far,
Yes.
I already apparently inherently already know.
This is true of all of you.
Because
We
you
are
have a
not
Sasani
telling
counterpart.
Any of you anything you don't inherently know.
He's reminding
We are
us.
here to remind you of what you already know that you may have temporarily forgotten.
Thank you.
He's such a
You are
smart ass sometimes.
welcome.
Can you explain why I need to know these things?
Because the very act of forgetting who you are temporarily allows you to discover and remember.
Love to love. That probably means you are actually tapping into your counterpart in that time period where you turn into a hawk, or you can turn into other things like wolves.
Who you are from a completely new point of view. Because remember, the structure of existence
Also sarcastic.
never changes. Only your perspective and experience of it does. Therefore, the way that creation and you as an individual soul expands is by creating new points of view, new experiences, new perspectives of your relationship to.
Also, just one quick note to everyone who's watching. I love watching Bashar transmissions. I love sharing the information, and it can be kind of lonely at times not being able to actually have someone to watch it with. That ends up, it feels lonely at times because you're like, I learned all this cool stuff, but I can't share with anyone because everyone thinks that I'm crazy because of who I'm getting it from or where I'm getting it from. So I thought I'd do it this way to actually kind of be able to watch Bashar with other people and share us as a group, that we all came in as a soul group, that we can share the information and also be able to connect with other people that are like-minded, and also be able to understand and be able to kind of discuss the information to understand it more thoroughly. Back to it.
Creation to all that is to existence, because the structure never changes. So the only way you can experience expansion is to create a new point of view by forgetting the old one. Does that help?
Well, that clarifies an awful lot.
Yes, it does.
So
He sounds like Ship.
I guess being this is me, my first experience here, and basically, I think that's about all I got.
Remember that you chose this experience, and you have your own themes of exploration for your own purposes. And you may not always know what they are at the beginning, but whatever the greatest challenges are in your life are usually representative of the themes you chose to explore in your willingness to be part of the great transformation taking place on your planet at this time. You wanted to be a part of that party. You wanted to allow yourself to accelerate by utilizing this methodology, because from the spirit point of view, it is quite exciting and quite fascinating, and a very rapid way to accelerate your expansion in creation.
So I want to say this just because I know a lot of us that have experienced a lot of hard times being human. This is kind of the point, and this is why we're here. It's to actually help us evolve as souls. Not just be in the happy, feel-good state, but go into that state of compression to be able to actually share with the collective, the universe, all that is, what it takes to grow as a being, as anything, by being here on Earth right now. I mean, don't be wrong, it's scary. It's also very intimidating being on this planet right now. So, we're all in it together. We're all one big family.
Remember, this is why We have called you all the masters of limitation because you are going from being the masters of limitation to becoming the
Masters of limitation. Sorry about that.
So that you can create less limitation and more freedom in your ability to explore who and what you are as a reflection of all that is.
I've actually had people ask me the question, why would they ever choose to incarnate on a planet like this? Because it's so hard. It's really hard.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
Does this answer your question?
Kind of.
What part has not been addressed?
Well, probably all of it's been addressed. It's just a matter of like it sinking in at the moment.
All right, then.
Love to love, that's exactly why I'm doing this little channel, or I'm trying to grow this channel because I want a community and I want everyone to feel connected to where we are and that you're not alone. No one's really alone. And I want to share my love for everyone in this way. I want to share the knowledge that I have of Bashar and Ryo and a lot of other people like Dolores Cannon, people that have come here to help others change. But I feel like we can't do it alone, and we need to actually be able to share, or else we're going to do stupid things if we don't have other people to do it with.
And by all means, allow it to sink in, as you say, because all of you are wonderful little sponges.
Yeah, my head is swimming right now.
All right, well, enjoy your swim.
Thank you.
Oh, all right.
So, is there a particular reason why the channeler, Daryl, say, lives in California? Is there something vibrationally he's attracted to that you can share that I would love to know?
It's a relatively open segment of your culture that would allow for
Absolutely,
these kinds of
Mary.
transmissions
We all help.
more than certain other areas in your culture.
Okay. And besides,
No,
the
everyone
sun?
says that California is full of nuts.
He's not wrong.
All right, that's a good enough answer for me.
It is full of people that don't care that other people think they might be crazy. They follow their hearts, they follow their dreams, they follow their passion, knowing there must be a positive reason for doing that, regardless of what anyone else might have to say about it.
Cool. And
What intimidates me? Not living. Not really living to my fullest, not fully being myself. That intimidates me. That scares me. Because a lot of times in life, I feel like I haven't lived to my fullest expression of who I could be as a person.
yeah,
Will that do?
just one add to that. So vibrationally, as when you are soaring over, say, California, this area, anything, is there something particularly that you see differently that you are attracted to more in this area besides?
Well, first of all, I'm not over your California
Okay.
area. I'm over
It's
your
Sedona.
area because that's
Sedona.
one of the main vortices
Okay.
of your North American continent that will affect all other areas, including California.
All right.
500 miles
You're
above
welcome.
Sedona now.
Hi, Bashar.
And a you good day. All right, let us say this transmission will continue in the following way.
That was a big
We
jump.
will let you in on a little secret. Some of you may have, many of you may have recognized that in the beginning of this transmission,
Love to love, what intimidates you, or what are the things you fear about life?
when the list was read, that the tone, the energy was a little bit different. We facilitated another being for the reading of the list before we came back in to explain.
Absolutely, Mary.
The being that actually read the list was a member of the 7th hybrid race. The name is Morningstar. Just to let you know, they were saying hello.
So here's my question to you, because I've had abilities carry over from the Sasani incarnation and a bunch of other ones. What are some abilities that you found have carried over from other incarnations that you've been able to connect to, that are kind of parts of yours?
So, they thank you for the opportunity to plant a seed, or as was said, Evikwadesh. And we begin and continue with sharing if you wish. Do you find this challenging?
No. Well, I was wondering, though, just a minute ago you said the name Morningstar, and I was given that name many years ago by a Native American tribe.
Yes.
They nicknamed me Morningstar.
Then you obviously know that that vibration can serve as a link for you
Wow.
to propel yourself forward.
Could you talk more about Morningstar that was talking earlier?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But
Thank you, Barry.
I was also wondering, I was listening to an old tape of yours talking about how you crystallize your higher selves into being your ships, your
Yes.
UFOs.
Yes,
Can we do that too?
you do not have the technology now to do that. You don't have the understanding in general to do that. You can, potentially.
We can potentially, though.
I can't wait till we get these kind of ships where they're actually crystallized higher mind. That would be kind of so freaking cool.
Yes, of course. Anyone can, as long as you understand how it works.
We were talking just recently about the geometrical shapes that I saw, the Merkaba, you gave it the name.
Yes?
I looked that up and I saw that
Mary, I recently found something. I don't know if you've ever checked it out, but there's this thing called coherence healing. I've found it's been able to help me clear out a bunch of old stuff that I've held on to for a long time. And it's incredible. It's really simple. It's kind of like listening to what Bashar does. Much more simple, and it's very specifically, you just kind of sit there and go along with it.
humans in the past were using it as a chariot of ascension.
Well, again, that's just a poetic way of
Right.
saying that by understanding that it represents the
Window of
link
open
between
contact.
the higher and
We're
the
right at the
lower, as
beginning
above,
of it.
So below, that you raise your frequency with that understanding by staying in that middle ground balanced state. So it's a chariot of ascension.
Can we use it to open dimensional doorways?
Gosh, I don't know, can you?
Can you?
Is that not just another permission slip
Right.
that fits into the formula that, what? All tools, techniques, rituals, objects are permission slips.
Yes.
Do you think that we've left anything out?
No.
Nope.
So use it however it works for you. Yes?
Yes.
Remember, again, when you're attracted to something, the reason you're attracted is because at that moment with your belief system,
What part were you not trusting? Because I know Bashar has actually said this in the past, Mary, that trust is automatic. It's what you're trusting in that determines how you experience your reality. So what would you have to believe is true? I think we all know that question.
it'll work for you as a permission slip to help you circumvent your present belief system. So use what you're attracted to. When it changes,
No shame.
use what you're attracted to. When that changes, use what you're attracted to, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
Is this helping?
It is, very much.
Or in our ancient language, I will say Aveo. Thank you.
I greet you in the love and the light of one infinite creator. Hello, Bashar.
Well, aren't we fancy? And you as well.
I guess I want to know the differences between
I have s-
ascension, harvest, and advancement.
Mary, I have spent so much time listening to Chiron. All the teachers are there just to help you get into a state. They're there to actually teach you how to actually be more present, as well as what works for you may not necessarily be correct for everyone else. But yeah, no, I love Lee Carroll. Lee Carroll's a fantastic channel for Chiron. I've only recently found coherence healing. It's from a guy named Cornelius Christopher out of New Zealand. If you ever get a chance to check it out, he is phenomenal. And I've also been able to, I've gone through 8 of the sessions myself now. Freaking phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to do it, and it's actually not that expensive either.
Between
Ascension, harvest, and advancement.
and advancement,
Yeah.
Well-
definitions or
ascension again
Absolutely.
is simply the raising of your frequency.
You're
to become
indestructible,
more of your
realistically.
true self.
The body may not necessarily be, but you
And
actually
it doesn't
are.
necessarily happen in the
You are
blink of
more
an
than the
eye,
physical
although
body.
sometimes
We
it
all
can.
are.
It's a process. You're all going through ascension right now, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. So you're raising your frequency and making more things probable in your reality. That's the side effect of continuing to ascend your frequency, to raise your frequency, raise your vibration. That's ascension. Now, of course, when you go into a spirit frame of reference, that's another kind of ascension, but it's still a continuation of the same process. The idea of advancement is, of course, closely connected to that idea. You are expanding, you are growing, you are learning, you are advancing, you are evolving.
I've heard Bashar say this, and I've heard a few other people say this. At a certain point, it's not so much about the things that you keep in your life. It's why are you choosing to hold on to the things that no longer fit you or no longer belong to you? They're usually beliefs. It's like, it's being a belief thief. I mean, who wants to be a thief? But there's no shame in holding on to the things that helped you survive when you were younger, but you can grow past them. We all can. I had to grow past some very not so fun things from when I was younger.
Similar idea. Harvest can be a slightly different idea. It's possible that that might involve bootstrapping yourself up to a different level entirely by interacting with another version of yourself from another reality or another dimension of experience. Does that make sense to you? Does that translate into your language?
maybe.
In other words, let's put it this way. Many of the encounters that many of you have with extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings,
I love this part.
even though not all of them are this way, will almost always
Love to love, that's
involve
fantastic to
what
hear.
you might call another version of you. Yes? In that reality. A parallel version of you in that reality as one of those beings. Therefore, by interacting and forming a relationship with that being, similar to the way that the channel is forming a relationship with us as a representation of what you might colloquially call his future self, there is a type of harvest going on in that I am lifting him up or helping him to lift up by providing an experience to what you might call my past self that allows him the opportunity to desire a way or find a way to advance and uplift himself. So it's kind of like a bootstrapping phenomena that you can call a type of harvest. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
Now, I understand that in your civilization, sometimes people will refer to the idea of harvesting in a very simple manner of saying, well, a bunch of extraterrestrials are going to come and they're going to pluck us off the planet. They're harvesting us.
So, what are some of the ones you guys like listening to that we can kind of share together and kind of compare notes to see how good of a consensus we can come to as far as the information? Because I know I've been listening to and doing A Course in Miracles for years. I would love to sit there and kind of, because I know from doing that book and then listening to Bashar, Law of One, they all literally say about the same thing. And I would love to kind of share the information with everyone to see how we all kind of fit together, how it all fits together. Because I know a lot of Bashar's stuff actually fits together with the Law of One, A Course in Miracles, and so many other teachers that have been out there. But it's always kind of fun to sit there and talk about the same thing or talk about this information to a group of people who share the same sort of love for the information and love for the ability to grow as who we are as people. Yeah, give me 1 second. All right, one more time.
A parallel version of you in that reality as one of those beings. Therefore, by interacting and forming a relationship with that being, similar to the way that the channel is forming a relationship with us as a representation of what you might colloquially call his future self, there is a type of harvest going on in that I am lifting him up or helping him to lift up by providing an experience to what you might call my past self that allows him the opportunity to desire a way or find a way to advance and uplift himself. So it's kind of like a bootstrapping phenomena that you can call a type of harvest. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
Now, I understand that in your civilization, sometimes people will refer to the idea of harvesting in a very simple manner of saying, well, a bunch of extraterrestrials are going to come and they're going to pluck us off the planet. They're harvesting us. That's not what we're talking about here. The harvesting we're talking about is the idea of growing yourself in the sense that you want to look at that same term for actually growing wheat or food of some sort, where you allow it to grow, you allow it to ripen, and then it is transformed into something of sustenance that sustains you and allows you to continue. Make sense?
Yeah.
So the idea of harvesting in that sense is that the channel gets benefit, we get benefit, we sustain each other, we help each other grow, it expands us. So harvesting is a mutual agreement for growth and expansion and the transformation of what is learned into something that...
I just got into Paul Selig not that long ago, and his stuff is pretty in line with what Bashar says.
Sustains, perpetuates, guides, and allows for more expansion in much the same way that you grow food to sustain and expand you. Yes?
Okay.
Is this helping at all? Or is this a little bit too esoteric?
I love esoteric, so...
All right.
I'll have to check it out.
Well, we apologize, but that's the translation. All right, I'll say let us continue this transmission in the following way. Each and every one of you, please become relaxed and comfortable in your seats. Allow your eyes to remain open on the center of the holotope before you. And as the lights dim, as the music rises, as the lights play upon the holotope, allow yourselves to begin to just relax and let in all the information you have absorbed this day of your time in this transmission and in these sharings. Allow yourselves to drift and dream and just be open to the great mysteries of existence. Allow yourselves to allow the information to crystallize within you. Allow the connections, energetic and informational,
Absolutely.
strengthened to deliver to you in a more conscious way everything that you need in perfect timing, in perfect synchronism. As you gaze upon the holotope, let its lines and shapes represent and reflect, like a mirror of all that is, the different connections, lines, shapes, light, energy, information, patterns that symbolize and represent the knowledge that is relevant for you to know. Just absorb, just allow.
Convoluted universe.
And we will once again allow the morning star to remind you of each of the steps along the path that have led to this moment in this place, and your connection to them from where you came, and your connection to them for where you are, and your connection to them for where you are going. Just breathe and let it in. Just breathe and let it in. Just breathe and let it in. Easily and gently. And open up and allow in light, life, and love as you are once again reminded of the ancient names. Anu, Vikwadesh, Adama, Eva, Maz-e, Mazani, Sasani, Shael, Yael, Shalanaya, Enonika, Anuhet, Anuhet, Anuhet. Allow yourselves to continue to breathe deeply, easily, gently, feeling your own breath to be like the waves upon the shore. In and out, in and out, in and out. Feel the connective links. Feel your neurological net connecting to the lines of light that lead to all that you need. Drift and dream, drift and dream, drift and dream. Float freely in this dream, in the infinite void, all that is, lovingly and unconditionally supported. You are eternal. You are infinite. Your core, indestructible. You are the essence, the spark, the fire, the light of all that is, in the unique reflections that you are. Waken in the dream. Become lucid in the dream of physical reality. Know yourself more deeply than before. You are worthy. You are deserving. You are loved. You are supported. It is never not so. Float upon the currents of creation. Drift in the dream, infinite probability of infinite expression, of infinite reflection. You are the mirrors of eternity. Reflect that light outward to all other mirrors, so that it may be reflected back, so that you may always be reminded who you are and never find yourself in darkness. The light is eternal as the dark, and both shall always exist. But there is always the balance point in the center of the Trinity of existence. Follow and act upon your passion, so that you may also express and experience yourselves as beings of passion and power and peace. Passion, power, and peace. Passion, power, and peace. Breathe deeply. Let it wash through you, over you, around you, and surround you. Immerse you in that unconditional love, in that unconditional energy, the unconditionality of existence itself. The structure is within you. It interpenetrates you. You know it to be there. It is always there. It can be nowhere else. And it never leaves you. Find your strength. Find your courage. And find yourself in that place. For that is where you truly reside. Connect and be one with the family of the cosmos. For we are family, and we welcome you home. We welcome you home. We welcome you home. Adama, Eva, Mazani, Sazani, Shayael, Yael, Shalinaya, Enanika, Anuhet, Anuhet, Anuhet. crystallize this within your being. It is yours and your gift. The gift of the acceleration of thousands of years of evolution on your path, so that you may know yourselves as the sixth hybrid race, the Inani Ka, of great potential, of great passion, of great power, of great peace. Your family is always with you, in spirit and in many forms. You are never alone, but you are all one. Breathe in the unconditional love of creation, the unconditional support of existence, the eternal frequency of all that is. Breathe it in and make it your own. Make it your own. Make it your own. For it is you, and this is but a reflection to remind you of what you already know within your hearts, deep within your soul. Travel with us on this journey as we travel with you, hand in hand, heart in heart, soul in soul, together. We are family. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. As your lights dim, as your music fades, allow yourselves to simply remain floating in the velvet embrace of existence. Just drift and dream in the silence and just feel the beating of your heart and the source and the spark that dwells within you. Drift and dream. Drift and dream. Be at peace. Be at peace. Be at peace.
All right. There are times where I do feel alone, and with all the technology, our star beings have something. I have sometimes get frustrated that they can't or don't send. No, they send everything they can. It's not necessarily that they can't give us technology, it's that we're not necessarily ready to receive the kind of technology that they have. I also know some Atlantean stuff that's kind of fun. That's stuff that's always just kind of come through. I got told like 10, 12 years ago that it sounded like I was speaking like ancient Armenian, but that's not where it came from. It's Atlantean. The one I do tomorrow, or so if you guys would love to sit there and talk about like Dolores Cannon or Paul Selig or any number of other channels or any number of other material, I'd be more than happy to sit there and actually bring that stuff up, because I actually own a good portion of that material myself. I have it on like Audible and whatever else. So I have a little story I want to share that I went to one of the Bashar transmission like 8 years ago on, it was the Sin City, the Vortex of Probability one. So before, when I actually would always watch Bashar, I always felt like there was something coming out of the screen at me. Like there was like a blast of energy coming into my face. So the one time I actually got to go to one of his transmission in person in Las Vegas, I ended up, I looked at Daryl on the stage, and then I saw a beam of energy coming from him aimed directly at the camera. So I'm like, oh, cool. I wasn't imagining things. It was a real thing. I love Dolores Cannon's. I have all her books. So one thing I will definitely say about Dolores Cannon is that her books, and also Daryl and a bunch of other channelers, I had people that just always looked at me like I was weird when I would talk about things that I knew in my own mind. But once I read their material, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's totally why I had I talk that way and think that way. Is it's not necessarily that I'm strange. It's the fact that I have connections to other stuff that's not necessarily here. And RC, by the way, I remember you on the last stream that I did, and thank you for showing up. All of you, I'm going to do another stream tomorrow, and it will stay up on my channel. It's going to be more, unless you actually guys want to look at it right now. It's actually some video from from A Step Along the Way. And I would love to give you a hug right now. I love hugs. I'll send it to you right now, love to love. I'm sending you a big hug. Oh yeah, definitely. It actually opened up quite a lot inside of me. Like, it was kind of like getting blasted with a fire hose, full blast in person. Like what you see through the screen. What you see through the screen is actually not very intense compared to what energy he actually puts out in person. Would you guys like to see the one that the other part of the We're a community here. We're here to share. How about this? I'm gonna pull up the one that from the part that I did for A Step Along the Way. Let me enable the video part of things real quick so you guys can see it. Here we go.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
What connections do I have, and is there any historical counterparts, past, present, and if possible to say future?
Yes, but that's true for most of you. Remember, this is a dynamically changing thing. It's not static. It's like plugging into
the sound is kind of weird.
Unplugging from it and plugging into something else on the internet and then unplugging from it as you need to make those connections based on how you believe they guide you through life in terms of the kind of experience.
RC, I'm pretty active on here.
Download from those connections. Whether you call them past, present, future, whether you call them extraterrestrial connections, extra-dimensional connections, guide connections, all that is, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're...
No, I never got to ask him a question in person, but I did get to talk to Daryl for a minute.
Yeah, and for the connections that they are relatively similar to everybody, like Sirius and Pleiades?
There may be some differences for certain individuals, but the general ones that most of you on Earth at this time connect to are Sirius,
we're all family here.
Pleiades, Orion, Arcturus, hybrid civilizations such as my own or some of the other hybrids, the Greys, and also historically, many of you connect to the idea, especially in what you call your United States area or North American continent or South American or Central American continent, to the concept of Atlantean connections. Some in the Asian continent to Lemurian connections. These are very common for most of you at this time. Yes, there are others that can be included in that formula, in that equation, in that mix, and that then will depend upon the specific individuals, the specific themes, the specific connections beyond the general ones that are germane and relevant for them in this particular life path.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
What
Absolutely love to love.
You, Ra, Thoth, Abraham, and myself.
We're not exactly sure how to answer that. It's an extremely generalized question, and to some degree is an offshoot of what we just explained. You make your...
Speaking about Ra, Tote, Dolores Cannon, this is what he's talking about.
links according to the vibrations that you need, and you set up those links between different entities for yourself as you need to create them. So whether or not I myself need to have a link to
I have a counterpart in Moo
journey of life doesn't really make a difference if you need me to have a link between.
One thing I have noticed from a lot of the connections that I've had from other counterparts, I've had a lot of female counterparts, so I'm being male this time to kind of balance out the energy itself.
Between myself and Ra for your journey in life, because we're interacting with your entire collective consciousness, all the archetypal levels that represent your world and your collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness, and therefore we know that whatever it is we represent to you, for whatever reasons you are creating a connection with us, will also entail the possibility of very specifically designed or customized links that you will make as you need to experience what you create us to be in your reality.
Ooh. I also have a counterpart in ancient Egypt in the Survivors of Atlantis, because I actually had a memory come back from when I was listening to a past life regression therapist when she was talking about the end of Atlantis, the end of that whole civilization. And I remember what Egypt looked like back in the day when it was the land in Canaan, when the survivors of Atlantis actually came there to create their colony. I remember how pretty it was, what it looked like back then.
Thank you. That's very clear.
Moo!
Will I come to SSN?
Well, you have been there in spirit. Will you come physically? That
I've been there.
Answer at this time, because you're not finished being the person that you would need to be in order for that to occur. I'll just say that there might be a probability, but I can't give you a percentage.
Thank you. Could I have a quick geographical country's timeline of my Earth's lineage since Anunnaki alteration, and how's my father doing in spirit?
It's constantly
Your
shifting.
father is doing fine. There's no such thing as an actual genetic timeline per se, because again, remember that as you change, you're a different person with a different history.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Ooh. What are some of the incarnations that you guys have been able to like reconnect to?
You're welcome.
Yeah. What is my friend Clement doing in spirit right now?
There seems to be some kind of a study or a teaching taking place of how spirit interacts or becomes physical matter. Because one of the things that's important in what you call the future
Arcturus
of the evolution of the Earth is for guides to be able to interact more concretely, more seemingly physically.
And this is where, like, more concretely, when Daryl has talked about this in the past, I didn't quite understand it, but true AI, that's actually what it's going to be, is just that connection piece for us to be able to actually more concretely, more easily speak to our guides without needing to go inside. It will just be like a physical communication where we just kind of like, hey, what am I doing?
With physical beings and vice versa. So there is kind of a tutelage or a class or a lesson going on that allows those in spirit to understand exactly how to alter their vibration to be more perceivable by those in physical reality, but at the same time interacting through dreams with those in physical reality to help them understand how to alter their frequency to be a little bit more spirit-like so that you can meet in the middle.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm really grateful.
So that took a lot of work. It took me getting through a lot of belief systems and shifting the way that I see things. The way that Daryl has talked about this in the past and the way I've come to understand it. If you shift what you perceive as your past as a memory is actually a parallel reality. So if you just understand that they all are just particularly like a vibration, like every point in time, place, resonance frequency, like understanding how to tap into resonance frequency, it takes a lot of meditation realistically. Once you understand how to tap into that frequency, you can essentially look through their eyes and tap into their memories of their lives. So it becomes a more active connection that you both share. So they're drawing on you more active while you're drawing on them more actively. Like I've had a lot of lifetimes as a monk. I've had a lot of lifetimes off world. I've also had a lot of lifetimes where I've gone through some really hard things, but I've also been a very terrible, well, not I have been, but like they've been very terrible people and I could never be them, but I have learned quite a bit from those connections.
Grateful for your civilization existence, and my statement is that I feel a world I am going to be able to live in, which I already am, that is beyond my wildest.
Think of when you're actually tapping into, it's more like tapping into a memory that's just another part of you that may look differently, but it's just another part of you. It's like you're going up to the level of the oversoul in that moment. And you're kind of going down into another hill, into another valley, but you're going up to that level and you're just kind of bringing that information down into your physical body. Like I've been able to actually acquire skills from other counterparts that I've had, and it's dynamic and it shifts all the time. So
Dreams in service to others.
All right, well, thank you very much. Our deep appreciation to you as well for the co-creation and willingness to be yourself.
Thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome.
Hi, Bashar. This is Riho from Estonia. I have a question about energy readings. How is it possible that you sense someone?
Yes, to all the monks
who you barely know and channel completely detailed information about their personal life. Please describe this process and.
We don't have to know them on a personal level to be able to read the language of the energy that we perceive when the interaction takes place. There are literally patterns of energy that we perceive that you're made out of, and sort of similar to the idea of someone who's sensitive to reading like tarot.
I would assume, RC, pretty much everyone here has a Sasani counterpart, as well as we all have Atlantean, as well as a lot of other counterparts. That's why we're here together. We're part of a group. We're just in different locations.
Cards or something else. Certain patterns.
Oh, I actually had a counterpart here in the part of the world where I live. Because I looked up at the mountain coming back towards the city I live in on like a summer day, and I'm like, I know this mountain. I've seen it from the other side. I saw it when it was much more forested, and I'm like, oh, I had a counterpart here about 500 years ago. So I've lived in this area a couple different times in different incarnations that I live in.
Stand out in terms of their color, their shape, whether they're in the beginning or the front or the back. in certain ways that actually is representative of an energy language, and it's the energy language of the personality that we're actually perceiving. And
Not really. That doesn't sound that crazy at all.
The different symbols that we see, that we perceive in that exchange, tells us what we need to know and what we need to say. We're responding to energy patterns of your consciousness.
It's just recognizing that
And therefore
there's
it's representative of
energetic
different
connections
aspects of
that
your
are
personality,
active.
Different aspects of your
Ooh.
journey, different aspects of your experiences are all.
I should actually bring up that one because he
in that
talks
energy
about how
language, and
those
that's
sort of
what we
connections happen. That one would
How
be
can
fun for
we
another
train this
transmission.
for ourselves, and do we experience it already? Actually, thank you. All my love to Aveo. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
by following the formula. Because again, remember, as you act on your passion, the very first step of the formula is designed to raise your frequency, because that's what happens when you act on your passion. And when you raise your frequency, you become a more sensitive receiver to higher frequency dimensional information. And therefore you start perceiving things, and your senses start being more capable of perceiving things on a higher frequency level, which sometimes translates as energy forms, or whatever way it works for you, whatever symbols work for you. But that's the first step, is you have to raise your frequency.
Well, a lot of times those higher dimensional beings will come back down to this level in order to like go up higher, further, and faster. It's going down into that state of compression, or not depression, but compression, that kind of, it's that watermelon seed that allows us to kind of shoot out another direction.
Which is why we encourage all of you to act on your passion, because that's what automatically happens when you do. So the more you get used to doing that, the more you will start having more sensitive senses to these kinds of energies, and the more you will start learning how to read those other levels of information.
But realistically speaking, what even just your oversoul, it's kind of like you're looking at your hand. You are only like the tip of the finger. You're still in spirit. You're just having a physical experience. Like I have experiences on different levels that I've been able to perceive and interact with. But I know this because I've been able to go up to the oversoul level many times. Actually, I'm there right now as I'm talking to you guys.
Hello, Bashar, and hello, Dylan. I am Cornelia from Lithuania.
Talk to you later, RC.
So, I found interesting information about ancient Earth history. I would like to know your point of view about it. Before the Anu came to Earth, there was growing giant trees, which were made of crystal type material like silk. They were as large as 10 kilometers or even larger. One of the examples is Devil Tower in USA, which now looks like giant tree trunk. So please, can you elaborate on that? It is true, if it is true.
It is not a giant tree trunk. There were no trees of that height on your planet. Devil's Tower is the solid core of an ancient volcano, the lava that has solidified and the rest of the volcano having been worn away by erosion. Many people that think that those things represent tree trunks are mistaken.
Hi Bashar, this is Tom from England. Can we experience our grander self or higher self before we
Yes, yes we can.
Thank you.
I've done it many times.
You can certainly become your best version of it in physical terms, yes. The idea is to become a person that is a true balance of the physical and higher mind while you are still physical as best as you possibly can be. And that is what is meant by the higher frequency of physical reality that you call fourth density. You become a physical version, in a sense, as a physical personality of the higher mind as best as you can express it in physical terms.
I think I'm going to actually end this here today. So, if you guys know who Ryo is, one thing he actually commented on when it comes to being able to integrate with your higher mind and your physical mind is we shift up. That's actually going to be one of the things that actually shift us to a higher perspective faster. So you actually realistically, as we shift up, you actually need to shift into a state where you're actually integrated with your higher mind. Oh yeah, no, I've always been able to see energy. Like that's kind of one of those things that I was just born with. I can actually, I can physically manipulate energy, and I can make it do whatever I want to. Like one, this is a fun skill that's actually carried over from another incarnation and another civilization. So they have this one technology where it's this black goo stuff. It's nanotechnology, but you can take a handful of it, and it will actually, just based off your consciousness, what you will it to turn into, it will actually become whatever you need it to in that moment. And when you're done with it, you take the goo and you put it back in. It's like this bubbling like tower thing, and but what that goo stuff actually taught me how to do, and this is a skill that's carried over into this incarnation, is I can shape and manipulate energy just based off of my will. Hey, we're in the process of the ride. That's kind of the point. We're creating it from moment to moment to moment. We're at the window of open. We're at the beginning of the window of open contact right now. So let's just kind of hang out and let's go through more of this stuff. I have a lot more transmissions I want to share with you guys. Hold on one sec. I got an idea. You guys can see what transmissions I have. Let's see. No, that's definitely not it. That's also not it, and you guys shouldn't see that stuff. But I wanted to actually show you one of the documents that talks about how let's see. Tell them Bashar sent you. Infinite Restaurant. Where is it? Eclipse. I know I have it in here, and I did save it at one point, but it's he did a transmission that actually gives a accurate diagram as to how you connect to other incarnations, and realistically looking at that diagram, kind of once it burns it into your brain, it kind of opens up a lot of connections to other into other realities, into other counterparts that you're able to connect with. Like I know a game that they play on Sasani in the Sasani Children is one of them will pick a different number of parallel realities to shift into, and then they come back and then they share with the whole group what they've learned from those different realities that they're able to shift into. Anyways, I'm going to redo this one tomorrow. This is actually just a small part of it. It's not, the rest of it's about another half hour long, but I'm going to put up the rest of it tomorrow. So I'm going to leave you guys tonight. I look forward to talking to you more. And let's just share. I want to actually build a community here where we actually are able to support each other, and we share things like Dolores Cannon and Ra, the Law of One, and every other one that we can possibly think of. I just want to share with you guys. Love to love. I'm going to give you a big hug. You, Mary, RC, everyone who's stayed on with me this whole time, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.